Well, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of council in the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in council chambers at 216 Main Street, Swan River, Manitoba, this 24th day of September 2024 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, Brad Kushniryk, Carrie, Blosha, RJ McGregor, and Byron Zbirun. Councillor Neely is still away on his leave of absence. Our assistant CAO is here, Kristi Ronnquist, and our videographer is here as well, Mr. Jeremy Bergen. We have one person so far joining us in the gallery electronically. We will head to number 2, approval of the agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 24th day of September 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there someone to move the resolution? I see Councillor Burick and I also see Councillor McGregor. Any discussion, changes, additions? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Number 3, adopting the minutes. Be it resolved, the minutes of the regular council meeting held September 10th, 2024 be adopted as presented. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha, and I see Councillor Kushniryk. Copy of the minutes are attached. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Are there any errors or omissions? Does anyone need more time? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. There are no delegations on the agenda tonight, so we'll move into finance items. 5.1 General Cheques. Be resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General Cheques number 20012 to 20046 in the amount of $88,740.32, and pre-authorized debit number 2024-019 to 2024-020 the amount of $966.96, and credit card payment 2024-036 in the amount of $859, and checks number 20047 to 20048 in the amount of $2,671.76, and credit card payment 2024037 to 2024044 in the amount of $2,043.28, for a grand total of $95,281.32. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second the resolution? Councillor Burick. Would anyone like it read 2 more times? Copy of the checks are attached, and in this handy dandy folder I have all the invoices for them. Who has questions?
20014. Not so much the check that I'm questioning, is the land description.
So there's 2 at the go here. The first one's the Durban Cemetery. The second one, Northwest 173429, is subdivision for a fire hall.
Okay. Northwest, okay.
Yeah. Next. You will note hydro bill payments in one of these, 20048. So I can advise drama. As you know, we've been following up an issue with the Durban shop and the billing there. So we received a credit from Manitoba Hydro for a little more than $2,000 to correct the billing. Then we received an invoice for approximately $9,000 because their computer had decided obviously we'd gone all the way around again. So those have been reversed. They will be estimating the bills, then we'll be doing a new reading, and we should get it caught up to being properly read and the numbers being accurate. So that is to come. But we're still working through that, but it looks like one of the readings that we submitted was a lot higher than it should have been. Somebody must have recorded the number wrong. And then when the next reading was lower, it assumed that we must have gone all the way around again, as compared to throwing the one reading out and saying, well, this one was obviously wrong. Anything else on general checks tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Payroll checks is next. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 554 to 571, the amount of $24,481.70. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha, would someone like to second? Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the payroll summary. It is attached in the private view for council. Does anyone have any questions or concerns they want to discuss? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 5.3 financial reports. We don't have a resolution for this because it's just a report, but attached is the latest version of the budget report for where we're at. Now this says September 23rd on the one line, but really it was printed at 3 p.m. today, so it carries everything until today. So there hasn't been a lot of changes in here lately. Gravel crushing and such. We still don't have a crusher crushing. The one that was supposed to be there a week ago hasn't arrived either, but coming soon. So those are fairly accurate numbers for gravel. I believe that shows everything to date. And then what's sitting there, there's about $300,000 or so that is earmarked for crushing again this fall to get ready for next year. So any questions on any of those?
How much would that give us?
At $9 a yard, it was 30,000 and a bit. Ideally we would do 50,000 yards. So there's the money for GIS isn't expended. That could possibly be redirected to gravel this year if that program's not running. We budgeted for it starting June 1st, so we could redirect the few months it hasn't run yet into gravel. And then we could look into, there's a couple other lines there that we may be able to get a few $1,000s each from to try and get a little more gravel on the ground.
You usually start off with about 50.
We've never had 50 on the ground yet.
Oh,
Most I've ever seen in inventory is about 30. We used 50 this year, and a lot of that came straight off the crusher. So a lot of that, we maybe started with 30,000 yards this year, so we used up 20 of this year's already. So if we were to crush 50 yet, we'd actually crush 70,000 yards this year. But we need it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't go bad.
Yeah.
As long as
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
swipes it.
yeah.
But, if there's ever spare money, gravel's a great place to put it, because it's one thing that we're never ever going to say, oh gee, we have too much. A reminder, if anyone has questions, you're always welcome to call Lois or Kristi or myself. And that goes as well for people watching home. If you have questions about the financial stuff, ideally you wouldn't call the staff directly, you call the councillor, the Reeve. But we'd be glad to walk you through it and tell you what's going on and help out in any way we can. Anything else on that report? Hearing nothing, let's move into discussion. What has happened here? Okay, I think I understand. Okay, so that is not supposed to be there. Sorry, I have to fix little hoops here. I'm going to leave it in case we need it later, but this is that's Sarah, so we'll just ignore it and we'll take it out after when we're done. So let's go to 6.1. This is bylaw 011224. I'll start with the resolution and have some discussion. Be it resolved that bylaw 0112-24, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, to amend existing zoning bylaws on a transitional basis, shall be read a second time this 24th day of September 2024. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha and Councillor Kushniryk. Now, a copy of the bylaw as it sits right now is attached to that. We do have second and third reading on the agenda tonight, but that doesn't mean we can't make changes. We have it on the computer. If we agree to some changes tonight, we can change them, reprint it again, do third reading with the changes. We'll just, do that a little later in the meeting because staff will need a little time to catch up on it. So let's open it up to discussion. What's everybody thinking about this? You've had a couple weeks. It was in the paper a little bit today, so you may have had some input from people from that. Who wants to lead us off? Councillor Burick.
I'm trying to get back my thing. I gotta start all over again. Gotta start all over again, sorry.
Okay, we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Councillor Blosha.
I did. Actually, I did talk to a few people about it, and had nobody disagree with it.
I think the important part, it was highlighted in the article today, this doesn't say no. This isn't a hard no. This is you need to have some plans in place. If you want to do this, come here, prove to us that you have a plan in place. It's a good idea, and we can say yes.
Actually, the couple people I talked to actually thought it was a really good idea. And they were happy that actually somebody was
So what
actually
part?
setting it. The part where you don't just put whatever you want in it.
You're talking about the hotel.
Well, any of. Just because people have seen what happens in other communities when things get out. Just
Councillor
saying.
Zbirun had concerns last time about the hotel part. Have you had more thoughts on that?
I still don't like the part, like, that would be just like me telling you what you need to see next year. Even though you did buy it and you spent your money on your land, but not me coming and telling you. And what happens if I'm mad at you? Do I make life miserable for you? What if some guy buys this place that he buys it straight and clear, and not all of a sudden he does stuff that none of us like? He bought it. That'd be like me telling you how to run your business.
I think if we do this, we would, before anyone purchases it, make sure they're aware of the restriction. You know, be very upfront with this is the rules governing that property. If you choose to buy this, this is what the rules are for that particular piece. So we wouldn't want anybody going into that without knowing.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, and I think the important thing is we're not saying no to this. It's just you got to prove to us that it's going to be safe. Because everybody's seen what's happened here.
But then I come back to the thing, what if it's somebody that you don't like? He might have a very valid idea, but I mean, it could be somebody as simple as that, whatever, dammed his land so the water wouldn't flow and whatnot, and all of a sudden he's buying this place and, well, I'm gonna fix him.
Well, I think our job here, like, we don't personally like them, we got to leave that outside there. I mean, if they come asking for approval.
But it doesn't always happen that way.
Well, true enough, but.
Doesn't.
So what would soften it to the point where you'd be happy with it? What could be done?
I don't know.
There's a couple things that when we wrote this up we were trying to balance. So one is the idea of what we're seeing in Bozeman right now. We just don't want that drama with the rumors and the go around that's happening with that hotel. And so, you know, this was written that if you purchase that hotel and you use it as a hotel as it's always been, go for it. Fill your boots. If you want to change it drastically, if you want to start housing homeless or do tier 1 housing or do something like that, you have to come here for permission first. That is somewhat covered in the other part of the bylaw anyway. The secondary part for the hotel, why it got named separately, is the liability to the taxpayers. Because it will cost so incredibly much to tear it down if somebody doesn't go in there that looks after it. And so the thought process was somewhat that by restricting it and basically sending that message to people, if you're just going to buy this thing and let it sit there and rot,
Yeah.
no. We need somebody, if somebody buys this thing, then we need them to do something so that we don't end up paying $100,000 to tear it down, because it's not fair to anybody else. And my own personal preference would be that nobody buys it at tax sale. That would be ideal, because then we would own it and we would offer it for sale with the conditions attached of, you can have this thing for $1. You tell us what you're doing with it. You have a year to do it, and if you haven't done it, we're taking it back and we're giving it to somebody else that will, to make sure that something happens with it that doesn't end up with us tearing it down 2 or 3 years from now. That's kind of why it got mentioned separately from the rest, because it wasn't just about the homeless part, it was about the make sure that we don't end up spending $100,000 that, right now that building, it's not in perfect shape, the water lines need work, but
yeah.
it can be saved and it can be something. But we've seen it happen in Bonito, unfortunately, several times before, where building sits there and is left, and then the bill comes to the municipality to clean it up. It costs a pile of money, and that one's gonna be so expensive if we have to, because it's so big. But I don't think anybody around the table will say no to changes. But we're trying to get our mind around what could we change to make it so that it didn't cause those same concerns for you?
I don't know.
Councillor Burick, you have your thing back up there.
No,
What's
no,
your
no.
thoughts?
I'm fine with the way it is. I'm fine with the way it is.
What do you folks want to do? I'm only here to keep order.
So we give it the second reading now, right?
Well, we're on second reading now,
Yeah.
we have third reading scheduled,
Third
so
reading
after
scheduled.
third reading, we can't make changes,
No,
because it
right,
exists.
right.
So if we make changes, we should be doing it now.
Yeah.
It doesn't, we can make changes in the third reading, but we're
Yeah.
not sitting in second reading, let's make changes
Right.
if we're making changes, so the changes get done and we can carry on.
It just seems like we're closing the door on a lot of possibilities.
Because you gotta have a little bit of control.
But we're not closing the door. They still, if, they gotta just come.
If they come to
Because
us,
the possibilities that are outlined there, the people that I talked to, because it's been in the news, they were very happy to see that we actually cared about something like that. Just so you know, and that's my take on that, but.
So like, are there things that this council, because ultimately we're gonna be sitting around this table for 2 more years. If somebody shows up here the day after tax sale with a plan of what they want to do with the hotel, are we going to give it an honest shake of letting them do it? Or are we going to unreasonably withhold permission? I would hope we aren't going to unreasonably withhold. I think anybody that comes with a plan, we should be willing to say yes, as long as they say, here is our plan.
yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily, and even if it does, if they come here and say, we want to have a homeless shelter in that hotel, but here are the things we're going to do to alleviate everybody's concerns, we may still say yes if there's no concerns left. I can't imagine the things they would do to be able to alleviate those concerns, but maybe they have some magic. You know what I mean? Like, even that, this allows us to approve a homeless shelter in it if they can meet the burden of the majority of this council thinking it's a good idea. For a homeless shelter, honestly, it'd be tough to meet that. You know, like, it's not the right place for one. But it doesn't say no. It says you have to come here and have the discussion and convince us it's a good idea. I don't want people freezing on the street either. I don't think anybody does. None of this says absolutely not. This all says you have to come and make a case that this is the right thing to do. Whether it's giving out needles or giving out free drugs or anything, you convince us that this is really good and safe and proper for our community, and then we'll let you do it. But you have to convince us first. Rather than right now, the way our bylaws are written, they don't have to come here. They can set up a homeless shelter anywhere in our municipality tomorrow. And we can't say anything about it except welcome. And there's some places that would not be appropriate, and there's probably some places in our municipality that would be appropriate places for it. But we need to have better control here, I think, over where something like that goes.
The only thing is, if it's a homeless shelter or something that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's sister, brother, you know, what if it was my daughter that needed a place,
Yeah.
right? Are we gonna say no? What if it's your daughter, whatever, you know, heaven forbid, but.
But at the same time, if we put a homeless shelter in downtown Benito, and we have 50 people move out of Benito because they no longer feel safe, and we're facing that right now in Swan River. We've got people living alone, even in Swan Valley West, saying, what if I'm the next person to be kidnapped and taken to the bank and have all my money withdrawn? We can't live with that.
No.
Everybody needs to be treated with respect. The homeless, as well as those that are homed, all need to feel safe and secure. Which is why I think it's important we don't just say no. I would support a bylaw that said no. But I support a bylaw that says we need to talk first and make sure this is the right thing. Give us an idea, see if we can live with it, we can make a change
I
for
don't
you.
know, I don't know what to tell you, it's a slippery slope that we're treading on, I feel, so.
The other option is if we can't find a solution, we can just vote on it. But we
Yeah.
always kind of try to find a way that we all are comfortable, right? Like our goal is to get enough compromise at the table that everybody says, you know, that's okay. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's okay. So I think everybody here prefers if we can find something that helps you feel better about it.
It's, we're good.
Okay.
We just vote. I mean, it's,
Okay. So my spidey sense is saying I want to vote against it. Round 2 is usually not a recorded vote. If you want one, you have to ask. Round 3 is always a recorded vote, no matter who asks. No one has to ask, and round 3 is always recorded.
okay.
So have that in your mind, and if you wish to say recorded vote, now's the time to do it.
We'll have a recorded vote.
Okay. 2 seconds, and I will set that up. So, just so we're clear, this is second reading. We're on second reading here. I'm going to now mark Councillor Neely as absent, so I don't have to worry about him later. So for everybody else, I need a show of hands for those voting in favor of the resolution. And those voting against. And those abstaining. Which one are you picking?
The last one.
Abstain? Okay. So in round 2, there's no reason to explain an abstention. In round 3, the law requires that if you abstain, you have to state a reason why. And we record that in the minutes. It can be any reason you want, long or short as you want. But just so you know it's coming, you can think of what you want to say. So I'm recording this as carried 5-0 with 1 abstained and 1 absent. So we're heading to 6.2. Be it resolved that bylaw number 0112-24, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West to amend existing zoning bylaws on a transitional basis, shall be read a third time this 24th day of September 2024 and be signed by the Reeve and signed and sealed by the Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, I see Councillor McGregor in there as well. So I know we just discussed this, but this is an opportunity if anyone wishes to add to that discussion in any way, you're welcome to do so. We're open for discussion one more time. Does anybody have anything further they wish to add? Going once, going twice. This is third reading, so it's a recorded vote. Add the recorded vote part. I will again mark Councillor Neely as absent because he's not here tonight. For that, everyone that's voting yes, can I have a show of hands, please? So I see 5. Anyone who's voting no, can I please see a show of hands? You're no? Okay. So I show this as 5-1 with 1 absent. That sounds like we've got everybody. The resolution is carried. Do you have the bylaws in there? Just to avoid confusion as to the effective time, we don't wish to have a discussion tomorrow morning, so the bylaw is signed. We're moving to 6.3. So this is community edge training. Council may recall I've been taking the community edge training. There's 8 sessions of it. So far I've taken 1 through 6. 7 and 8 are being offered in Beausejour on October 2nd. Those 2 will complete the training for me. I was here to ask Council for permission to attend. Have a resolution, be it resolved that Reeve be authorized to attend the final 2 community edge training sessions to be held in Beausejour, October 2nd, 2024. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, someone to second the resolution? Councillor Zbirun. Any further discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 6.4, bridge inspections. This is information only. We discussed a meeting ago having the Brown Bridge inspected. I want to advise council that that has been arranged. They will be coming through the inspection. Additionally, I have asked them to also inspect the golf course crossing, that Ford crossing, because there's been some movement in it, and we need to know why and what the plan is. So they will come and inspect it as well. They'll be providing us a report on what's happening there. I suspect they will also give us some advice on what can be done, hopefully. We'll see how that goes, but it's better to know than to not know, I think. So I added to the list for them. It's gonna cost them an extra $800 to $1,000 to have the inspection done, but I think it's money well spent. 6.5 is with a heavy heart, we have a resignation tonight. Whereas Pat Ellingson has given her resignation as interim chief administrative officer effective September 27th, 2024. Therefore be it resolved that the members of the council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West do hereby acknowledge receipt of Pat Ellingson's resignation with regrets. Be it further resolved that Pat Ellingson be retained as a municipal consultant as required. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha, is there someone that wishes to second? Councillor McGregor. I certainly have enjoyed working with Pat this last while. It was nice of her to come out of retirement and help us, and she is so incredibly excited to be moving on to things that don't involve coming to the office every day. She did some gardening over the summer. She fell in love with it. She started to take some more trips. So it's getting to be, so she's like, oh, do I really have to come in? So I understand her feelings here of saying that she's had enough, but she certainly helped us out, and I think we all thank her for that. Any other discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.6. This is a new one. We'll start with the resolution. We can discuss some. Be it resolved, the bylaw number 0095-22. That's can't be the right number. It must be 0113. Okay. Let's have the discussion in the meantime, and we'll work on this next part. So this is the campaign expenses and contribution limit. So 9522 is the old number. That's the one we're looking at renovating. So in the old bylaw, it provides head of council an expense limit of $1,500 and councillors of $750. And I think what may have happened in the past, under Manitoba law, when there's an election for municipalities, an individual is able to contribute up to $1,500 towards someone's campaign. So if, say, for example, Kristi is running for Reeve, I can give her $1,500 as a donation to her campaign, and I write that off on my income tax. She can then use that money, and if RJ gives her some money as well, now she has $3,000 or whatever we gave. In the old bylaw, the same numbers appeared in both places. So it basically limited you to what one person contributed to your campaign. What's being suggested here is we raise the limits to something a little more reasonable. So the idea is that for head of council, it would be about $2 per voter that you're allowed to spend on your campaign, or $5,000 total. For councillors, because the area is smaller, half that amount, which is what the old bylaw showed. Councillors were half of what you could spend on a Reeve campaign. There's certainly been a lot of discussion over the last few years that at $1,500 and $750, it's very difficult to be honest on your campaign return, because you're supposed to count the cost of gasoline. So if you drive all over a ward visiting with people, it's pretty quick. You're at several $100s, and then if you buy a couple newspaper ads, you're hitting $750. And I know in the past, I'm not suggesting it's right, but I know there have been candidates that had to throw away gas receipts, or else they would have exceeded the $750. And I think the number was arbitrarily low, and we shouldn't be encouraging people to break the law by having to do that. We should simply raise it to something that's reasonable. We don't want to take the limits off, because we don't want someone to spend $100,000 and the next person to only have $500. But what we were thinking when we came up with the draft was $5,000, $2,500 would be reasonable. But we're certainly open for discussion. Council needs to make a decision on what those numbers should be. Those are just suggested amounts. What do you folks think? No one's required to spend that much.
Yeah,
So you can spend $0 if you don't want to spend anything. But if you're buying signs and buying some advertising in the newspaper, you quickly get to that $2,000 mark these days. So everything's more than it used to be.
And it's not like the municipality pays you back.
No.
That's out of your pocket or whatever.
Nothing
So
in
it's
here. There are
not like,
some municipalities that do pay you back,
Yeah,
or a
that's-
portion of it, but this bylaw does not do that.
no. So if you want to spend it, by all means, spend it.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's fine.
Okay? So we're good with the 5,000 and 2,500?
I don't see a problem with it.
So if it pleases council, could we do first reading tonight? Even though we know we have to make a correction, we'll get those corrections made and we'll come back for second and third reading next time. Would that be workable?
Yeah,
The only correction is
The
The bylaw
the
number.
number up top.
By
Yeah.
the number.
What's that number?
Yep.
Are we fairly confident 113 is the next number? It should be if you just use 112. Okay, so we'll say be it resolved that bylaw number 0113-24, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West to prescribe certain matters concerning campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections shall be read a first time this 24th day of September 2024. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. I'm going to take 6, 7 away tonight because we're not going to do second reading tonight. If you do come up with some thought process along the way and you think, hey, you know what, we should have changed that to a different number, please be in touch with us before the next meeting so we can have the different versions prepared. We'll move to 6.8, Durban Community Hall letter. Letters attached to the agenda asking for their annual grant from Swan Valley West. They also include their financial report. That's attached to the public view because it is public information, so anyone that wants to see their finances can go take a peek. Cole's Notes version is their income is $10,844.32. The expenses last year, $10,134.26. So they ended up with $710.06 to the good, which is in their bank account to be used for something else. Highlights last year, they had some hall rentals for about $900. They sold some cabbage rolls and pierogies for $332. The catering for $22.50, that relates to the Swan Valley West Christmas banquet we did there. And we're set up to go there again this year. That's become part of their fundraising, is for the hall board to provide supper, and we pay for it, but the money actually goes to the hall. $200 of donations. They've been selling some 50/50 tickets as well. There's a pizza fundraiser they did, and their annual grant from Swan Valley West for $2,000. On the expense side, they're spending about $4,600 on electricity. That's not just lights, but also heat there. There's an MTS bill for $105, but I believe that's the end of the MTS because they canceled that move to Westman. Westman Cable's at almost $1,500. So they have internet in the hall. The reason they put it in was because of elections being there. They couldn't rent the hall without there being internet. But it's a fairly hefty expense for them. I talked to them at their AGM a little bit, which was several months ago now. We would prefer to have some internet at the Durban shop to monitor those cameras and have it available for remote diagnostics on the graders. But we don't really want to spend $1,500 a year putting internet in the Durban shop either, because that's also a waste. So we looked at if we could pull internet off the tower at Thunder Hill, which would be basically free, and the Durban shop isn't tall enough to see Thunder Hill. So the options then are to find something taller. I talked to Mr. Wintoni. He has a TV tower that would work to put a little repeater on and repeat it to the shop. Mr. Atkinson has some nice grain bins that would work as well. So we could speak to him with the offer of, hey, you can borrow the internet if we can borrow the grain bin. None of those get to the hall though. And I just don't know what the solution is for the hall. It would be nice to get them on something that didn't cost $1,500 a year. So we should kind of keep thinking about what the options are there.
Can we not go from our shop to the hall?
Well, and that's, if there weren't trees in the way, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if we could find, from those grain bins, we might be able to get from the grain bins to the hall as well. Just something that would get us to the hall so they're not spending that much money. I'm not suggesting Westman doesn't offer great service. They do. It's just for a hall that's used a couple days a year, $1,500 is a little hard
Yeah.
to take. So. Valley Water for $115. They have, I would assume that's a sewer pump.
Yeah, I think so.
Hull Insurance 901, so that ends up being paid back to us. Groceries and supplies for $1,600. A lot of that relates to that fundraising they did. The 50/50 payout is there, and then their company's office return for $80. So the hall board, as you can see, is making a whole hall work for $10,000, which is quite good. I think we're quite glad they do that for us. We wouldn't be able to do it for that. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put in by the volunteers. Tonight we have a resolution to pay their grant, which is essentially what they're asking for here. Be it resolved that the following grant payments be, let's do Durban Hall Board. Following grant payments as provided in the 2024 budget be approved for payout, Durban Hall Board, and the amount is $2,000, right?
No,
Is it $1,000?
no, I believe it's 500.
Is it 500?
Yeah,
Let's go find the
Here it
budget.
says,
Last year
because last year it
2,000.
was because it was more because they asked, like, or is it 1,000? But we gave 2
It
because
used to always be 1,000.
1,000. It's 1,000. It's not 2.
Look
We
at
gave
the
more
budget.
the year before because they needed it.
We'll look
I
at
thought
the
we
budget.
upped every hall's grant though this
Yeah.
past round.
Not. You
No.
better look it up.
No, I know.
It was
it's
it was
no,
1,000.
500,
Okay, we'll go get it, because I'm not positive.
Yeah,
We'll get the budget.
the 2,000 was extra. We didn't usually. That was to help with whatever they were doing. They needed extra, so we added it.
I thought we just raised it.
I thought we raised everybody, but we'll
Yeah.
find
No.
out here.
We'll find out.
I put 75 cents on we raised it and 25 cents on we didn't. Only about 75% confident of the answer. That's not enough to say it out loud.
Are we supposed to take that bet or what?
Thank you. Let's find it.
Or I'm thinking about the cemeteries. I don't know. I
cemeteries
don't
for
think we. I
500
don't
a
think.
piece, 500 a piece for cemeteries, isn't it, Carrie?
Yeah.
So that stayed the
But I
same
know
for quite a while.
it was 1,000. The halls were 1,000. But we did give extra to the Durban Hall.
I figured
It's all lumped together.
it's all.
Yeah, so you just
Let's go
divide
find
it.
the other one. So the lump together now is $4,000.
It's Big Woody, Durban, Ken,
Lavender.
Lavender. It's 1,000. Yep.
I think we're giving more to Derby because it was more active.
And we gave more to Durban because they needed it, and also that we didn't. Kendall didn't.
They were fixing doors or something, weren't
We
they?
gave candles to them. No, we gave candles to Durban.
But I mean, Durban was fixing doors or
Yes,
something.
doors.
or
They
something.
needed help with the doors.
Doors.
Yeah.
If I remember.
Okay, so here's the file that has everything in it. Okay, I forget, because this has everything in it.
Did we factor in Kendall if they aren't operating? Because then we would have been 1,000 to Lavender, 1,000 to, what's the other, Big Woody?
Yeah, but
And
we didn't.
2,000 to Derby.
No, we didn't make Durban's 2,000. We just gave extra because they asked for it.
Okay, so no one is completely right.
Of course we're not, because he can't make us right.
The budgeted amounts for this year, Durban Recreation Center, 2,000, Kenville Memorial Hall, 1,000, Big Woody Community Center, 2,000, Lavender Good Neighbor Center, 2,000, Kenville Community Arena, 2,500, Bozeman Community Arena, 5,000. So Durban is 2,000, but Kenville's only 1,000, but we didn't spend it because there's no hall. But Big Woody is on the list for 2,000, and Lavender is 2,000.
Okay. Let's give them their money.
Yeah, we all know a little bit now after that, or who was right.
But we did give extra the year before because they asked for it.
Because it was 1,000 the year before,
Yes.
because it shows in 2023, it's budgeted
Yeah.
1,000, but
But
we
we
actually
did.
gave them 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So these
I don't
other,
know who, but you gotta pay somebody 75 cents.
I think only
Or
50,
25?
maybe 25. We'll sort that out after the meeting. Okay, so the resolution now reads Durban Hall Board, $2,000. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha, Councillor McGregor in a second. Isn't it fun when we have discussion in meetings instead of just all voting yes all the time?
Well, we gotta make sure.
Any further discussion? Those in favor? That's carried. Okay, where are we? Canada Day, 6/9. So Councillor McGregor was bringing this up to me yesterday, again before the meeting, we're here for discussion. Canada Day 2024, as you know, was canceled in Benito. That caused some heartburn to a lot of people. So the question is Canada Day 2025. And part one is probably our emissary to the rec board. Do you know if they have any plans to do Canada Day or are they done with it?
We haven't had a meeting for all summer.
Okay. So, would it be fair for you to find out, or do you want staff to call Scott or somebody and ask if they know the
I
answer?
can find out.
If you can find out, and we're not saying they have to, we're not saying they shouldn't, just want to know
What their
what's your
intentions
plan?
are, yeah.
Do you want to do it? Do you not?
Yeah.
If you know you don't already,
Yeah.
we would like to know.
Yeah,
Because I think there might be some appetite here to do something else.
okay,
We should ask about Santa days too.
okay.
Yeah, could you ask about both? And
Okay.
just see. And I think if they aren't doing it, just so there's no confusion later, and we were hosting those events without them, and they're not, like, I don't want to give the impression that that rec board is supposed to do these events. They're a volunteer board, they're helping us out by running that facility. We're not saying they have to do these events, it's just they have in the past, and nobody wants to step on their toes if they want to do it again. But if they don't want to do it, chances are fairly good that if an event was being held, it would be held at that facility, just not by their board. We would find some different people to do it. Just, so that there's no confusion there of them thinking that we'd be finding a new location. It would just be finding different people
Yeah.
to do it. Okay. So
We very much prefer if they did it.
absolutely.
Well, it was a big fundraiser for the rec center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they don't want to do it, no hard feelings. We need to know
Yeah,
so that we can plan accordingly.
okay.
We have some Christmas candy over there.
Also,
So I'm gonna ask staff to bring that back next agenda for us.
Okay,
And if you could, even if there hasn't been a meeting, if you could somehow
Yeah,
pull them,
yeah.
talk to them, give us some ideas, so, especially for the Santa thing, because that needs to get set up
yeah, that's
sooner.
coming up sooner.
But even the
than-
Canada Day, the applications have to be in by January
Oh,
to
okay.
get funded. So
Okay.
we would be putting an application in yet this fall for a couple $1,000s for fireworks or something.
Okay,
6:10, poll council on this before we get too far. We discussed this in camera previously. We had discussed at that point bringing a resolution tonight. Is everybody comfortable with doing that now, or do we need some more in-camera discussion on the
Nope.
CAO
Nope.
point?
I got none. Do it.
So a resolution be resolved that Kristi, I see I spelled Ronnquist wrong, but you could edit that later. Kristi Ronnquist be appointed Chief Administrative Officer effective September 28th, 2024. So that's the day after Mrs. Ellingson leaves us. Is there someone who'd like to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha, and I see Councillor McGregor. Discussion. Does anybody want to open up discussion on this? I'll share that Kristi's been with us. We hired her as an assistant CAO with the intention we were looking for a CAO, but she wanted some time to make sure the job was right for her, and we wanted some time to make sure she was right for the job. So we've had that time now, and everybody that I've spoken to in our office staff is confident in Kristi's ability to lead here, and I know Public Works has that same confidence. So I think this is a very good fit for her to move up into that job. You'll note the title interim is not part of this. This is a final appointment, and I'm hoping she stays for some time because it would be nice to have that stability in the office. She's made my job a lot easier, and I'm sure she's made a lot of other people's jobs easier too. So, anybody else?
Looking forward to the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 6:11, fall brush control discussion. I have your map. I have a big highlight.
Do you have Ward 6?
Don't get ahead of yourself.
The map that's off.
On this map, today or the next couple days, you'll notice there are no roads marked anywhere. Public Works has indicated that they believe they have the ability to brush 30 miles this fall.
13 miles only.
30.
30.
Oh, 30, okay, I thought you said 13, I thought, well, no, he was wrinkling the paper, and I thought 13, I thought,
They're
that
confident
30
with our existing
30.
staff and
highlighted.
equipment.
sounds very good.
They are confident that they will for sure accomplish 30 miles, in addition to some miles that they have selected themselves as priority miles. They have asked that each councillor mark 5 miles in their ward. Their intention is to move the hoe from ward to ward to ward so that each ward receives some brushing yet this fall, rather than one ward receiving it all. So they would like in the next day or two, and do it after the meeting, do whatever works for you, mark some miles on your wards that need that brushing, and they will be there. The pink highlighter and 5 If you mark any more than 5, it can't be pink. We can get you a blue one, you can use the orange one. The pink is a 5, you're guaranteed to get done. If you want more, you're welcome to mark more, but if you mark more in pink, they will randomly pick the 5 miles that you get done. And they might do 6. They're hoping to do 10.
Some of
guaranteeing
some of
5.
ours, they know already where the 5 miles they need to go, so I'm not gonna step
Okay,
on
now
their
you're saying the
rules.
operators have some,
They have some things in their mind they think absolutely have to be
Yeah.
done.
priority, okay, so ours are 5 additional?
So my suggestion is, you mark your most important 5 miles on this map in case yours aren't the same as theirs. And if you have more than 5 miles, and I'm sure we all do, we'll get a blue one, we'll get a different color here, mark more in that other color. And if by chance they can get to more, they will. They're not gonna stop at 5 and go sit in the shop and drink coffee. But they're confident they can get through at least 30 miles this fall. And they want to try and spread that out so everybody gets a chance at it. And we're hoping they do 100 miles. Depends how much it snows, when it snows, all the stuff. We know all that. But that's the plan right now, so everybody gets some. So we can get the most priority stuff done. And the reason we're able to do this where we couldn't before is because we now have the trailer. So we've moved that hose 6 times already, and it works well, and it doesn't cost $800 to move it.
Okay,
It costs us an hour to move it.
which machine are we talking about then? Are you talking about the track hoe or are you talking about the skid steer?
Track hoe.
Okay, how about the skid steer? What's it gonna do?
Undetermined, this is the track hoe tonight. I suspect that the miles everyone wants done aren't miles a skid steer could do.
Yeah, I was
It'll all be the
hoping,
big trees
I
and
was kinda
stuff.
hoping that skid steer, sorry, would go to quite a few of those corners that need it. Those blind corners.
So if the trees are small enough, it probably could.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
cause they're mostly willows that are at those corners.
So this gets more complicated. 5 miles that you think the track hoe needs to do. And we'll find some more colors immediately after the meeting, mark those other things. If you think the skid steer could do it, or just corners or something, mark those. We'll get this map to Public Works, they'll do the best they can. If they can get 2 people out, then they can go with the skid steer someplace other, and do something. They're still doing culverts and approaches right now, but they're doing very well on that. The list is getting smaller, so. I knew that would be the trouble of the night.
Just to clarify, we have no gravel, right?
So I have a Public Works report, which we're gonna do in 2 seconds. Are we done with brushing? Okay, so we'll move to committee reports, and I'll just start off with Public Works. It's in here someplace. There it is. So Public Works says, patching roads with gravel we found in Alpine. So in Alpine, they went and scraped up what was left of the crushed pile there, which wasn't much. But then they scraped down some and found that the crushed pile did not stop where they thought it stopped. So they have salvaged 700 yards of gravel. Not all of it is crushed. Some of it is pit run, but the stones in it are really small. They're only 3/4 inch stone. So they've been using some pit run as well. So they did do a section of road up here someplace where it was really bad washboard. They cut it off and they took Alpine gravel with the heavy clay and put it on. So the idea of packing it in to see if they can solve that corner. They did, I believe, some of the roads you were very interested in, over by Mr. Gardner's there.
Thank you.
That's had some of that on it. And it's not necessarily perfect gravel, but it worked for what he needed. So they've got about 700 yards they've been patching with, and I believe they've used it already, but don't quote me on that. But they were up there with, I'm not sure what they had up there, if they had the wheeled hoe, something up there that we're scraping with and trying to reclaim some
Yeah,
of
it
that
was gonna
gravel.
be the wheel toe going in.
So that's the answer to the gravel. Basically, no, there isn't any, except they did find a little bit and they've used it on,
So it's all gone.
I think it is. There might be a couple 100 yards that left. I know they were digging in a couple of the banks there and they were finding some stuff that was good enough to use for some things without crushing. And they were using some of it too for like potholes and stuff,
Yeah.
trying to fill them up. They also report the new Ford truck is up and running. Lights, radio, headache rack is on. Fred is using it. Mower is in the north. We're using the 15-foot in the north. Normally we use the 10 up there, but there was an issue with the 10-foot. It's being repaired. Ford tractor's not ready. They ordered parts. They came in, but they were the wrong parts. So they've reordered the parts. They're thinking next week. Still doing culverts, probably for another week. Then we'll be switching to scrubbing. The 5 miles I would like to do. New low bed is great, moved the hoe 5 times, I said 6, but it's 5. One cylinder's no good. We're getting it fixed. Chris grader is broken down. I don't know if you've heard, but it's sitting on the side of the road right now, has been since last week. It's on the way.
Did we get it yesterday?
This doesn't say they did. This is parts ordered. Parking brake low pressure switch. So Chris reported that he was driving down the road. It started to feel like he was spinning out. So he pulled over the side, put it in reverse, couldn't go forward, put it in drive, couldn't go forward, couldn't move at all after he pulled over to the side, and there it sat. The only way to move it was to disconnect the drivetrain. We elected not to do that because it was off the road enough. We thought we could stay there for a few days and just get a part and fix it. So that is what they're up to. That is Public Works report I have for tonight. Councillor Burick.
15-foot mower, is he gonna stay up north?
I believe they're done in the south.
No, but he's gonna keep using it, or they're gonna fix, because I like the 15-foot mower. It covers, well, 15 feet. The 10-foot leaves a foot or two. It's not wide enough, but the 15-foot does a lovely job.
So I did not specifically ask that question, but I can advise that the 10-foot mower won't be working tomorrow. It
No.
probably won't be repaired in time to go up there this
Yeah.
season, so
Okay,
it's a gearbox issue.
okay.
So they're looking for used parts for it or else get a new gearbox. So very likely the 15-foot will stay up there for a
Yeah,
while.
So
no,
the mower's not coming back.
he,
that
Not
way.
at this time, we're still short a tractor.
Yeah,
but it, like I say, that's
Also
just,
we're short the
time,
tractor.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if the mower is fixed
The
with the
mower was
tractor.
fixed.
the 15-foot does a good cut. Do you have that same experience or no?
We always have a 15-foot down south.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, how would you know? How
But
would
like I
you
said,
know?
We know what
the
10 is
10
like.
always leaves that foot or two, like, I mean, just if it was a little bit. But no, he does a great job, good job.
Excellent.
Could we get Ryan a push mower?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
13-inch.
Electric, green, keep it green.
Give me that map there, now.
I'll draw some pink lines on the front.
Maybe we should just buy you some Roundup.
Right, absolutely.
Up the ditches.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on with committee reports. Let's go around the table. We'll start with Councillor McGregor.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Zbirun.
I checked some roads. I went up and checked that bulldozing, and I'll talk more later.
Okay.
Ratepayer called and we went and checked some roads. 191 west, about a half a mile. The beavers dammed the culvert. There's a screen there and whatnot, whether they got through it or whatever, but the culvert's 2/3 full, so I mean the road will be out in the springtime if it's not pushed through.
Okay.
That's why I was asking about gravel. There's one road there it's kind of a seasonal road, spring, fall, and they graveled that same road coming from Brian Burick's going north, but they left the last mile to the Durban or the Alpine Road, eh? And it's dirt, eh? And it's gonna
Would it
be dirt.
Like, does it need crushed? Could it live with the other?
It would probably live with state and like I talked to two guys up there and they said even just a skip, there's just something so that they're not slipping and sliding in the springtime, off that road.
And do
Which
you
road
know
is that?
Which road?
That's just there's no number on it, but it's just past Leonard Alexis's to the east, and then it goes a mile, and then it's the road that comes up. It comes up at the corner at where Brian Burick used to live.
Okay.
But there's just that first mile there, there's just absolutely nothing there. And it needs to be scrubbed in at the corner there, right when you turn off the Alpine Road. There's big trees and it's a blind corner you have to, and it's like this too, so
Oh,
then
I
it's gotta
know
come
which
to the
road
corner.
you mean. We don't plow that in the winter. though.
No, you don't plow it in.
Yeah, I know exactly which
Yeah.
one you mean. It comes
But
from
like I
the
said,
Durban,
it's a seasonal road.
from the
It just-
Durban highway to right to Burick's, sort of. Yeah,
yeah.
I understand.
And they, like I said, they gravelled it the first, 2 miles in, and then the last mile there were 3 miles in, and then the last mile they didn't do nothing to it, eh? And like he said, it's just a skipping in, just put a little bit of gravel, just enough to keep them decent from sliding off in the springtime.
I'm not sure that I have my mind around it
I
yet,
can
but-
show you where it
yeah,
is at. We can
after
show you where it is
Take
at.
our break. You guys can-
I know exactly where he means now.
Good.
Took me a minute though, because I was like,
And that's about it for me.
Councillor Burick,
I have no committee reports, no committee meetings.
we should send you to do something.
Yeah, I need the extra committees, I guess. But, I just wanted to say, that article that you write, the book, you know, the kind of year-end in review or something for Swan Valley West, could we do that for the end of the year?
Sure.
And I don't mean end of December, but end of November, but, because we've done a lot of things and just let the people know. And,
Should we lead off with all the things that have gone wrong, just for
no, like, I mean, there's a lot, we've done a lot of things, but, like, I mean, as far as the graveling, we spent almost twice as much gravel as we usually do. 216 looks great. And now we're doing, you know, start scrubbing and stuff like that. So I mean, just so the public is aware of what we're doing. What do you call it? Year-end in review or
I
whatever?
believe propaganda is the right word, but
But no, I was gonna mention that last meeting, but I we're talking about other things and I kinda left it. But I thought there's lots of time yet, but I'd say November sometimes, just before Christmas or something like that. People have something to read.
This is free pertaining to the bylaw earlier. Like,
very good. Anything else, Councillor Burick?
No, that's it.
Councillor Blosha.
I had a health foundation meeting, just a regular meeting. And I don't know where Brian was, but he says he wasn't at any committee meetings, but he was at the safety meeting,
Oh, I'll put the
which was, there you go, like, I don't know where he was, but he was there.
I was there.
Anyway, it was a good safety meeting. Happy to say that we now have a full safety committee. Before it was always hard to have the employees and, because you have to have 3 and 3, now we do, so. And Reeve stepped in for Terry, which was nice, and I think it's gonna go well from here on. I think they got a good handle on it.
Nice. Anything else?
No.
Councillor Kushniryk.
just the LED committee, really biggest thing is more discussion about the parking by the hospital. Not a whole lot else to report.
You wish to take that in camera?
We can, yeah.
Technically, add that to the in camera, so don't forget it. We'll talk parking by the hospital. Oh, excuse me while I get my list out. Thank you for your restraint, by the way, and not making some slide comment. That sounds good.
Sometimes it's too easy, so it's not worth it.
Yesterday, I was invited to represent the Municipality of Swan Valley West at the regional school for a reconciliation event. So I attended that along with the Reeve from Mountain and representatives from the town of Swan Council. The mayor wasn't able to attend. Unfortunately, no one attended from Manitoba's Bozeman. The rest of us did attend, so we had a speaker in from Winnipeg. He is a gentleman that writes for the Free Press. He also works for the Blue Bombers. So he spoke about reconciliation and what that is and why Orange Shirt Day is important and why it's called Orange Shirt Day. Which, if you don't know the story, and I got to hear it and I'll repeat it for you. Many years ago, there was a lady that was attending residential school. She was 6 years old at the time, and her grandma didn't have a lot of money, as you can imagine. Times were always tough, but managed to save up some money and go to the Robinson store, which I think many of us recall there being a Robinson store in Swan. She's not from here; it's a different community, but I remember still going to the Robinson store for kids' clothes when I was little. And she got to pick out a shirt because she had to go to residential school. And the shirt was orange. And she was obviously apprehensive about going, but went to residential school because that was the rule. You had to go, and took her orange shirt with her as a reminder of home. And when she got there, they took her orange shirt, and she never saw it again because she would not be wearing an orange shirt at school. And so many years later, she told that story when she was speaking to places about the orange shirt. And over time, people started wearing orange shirts to her presentations. And eventually got so that everybody was wearing orange shirts for a presentation. And that, over time, has become what we now know as Orange Shirt Day. And obviously, we have a fancier name for it now for September 30th, reconciliation, but that is the basis of orange shirts. So we heard that story. And we heard some talk about practical ways to do reconciliation, because I think sometimes people think it's just with a checkbook, but that's not really the case. So the students all went through that. I went from grade 9 to grade 12, had a chance with that. All received an orange shirt, so they had one to wear on Monday, and it was a good time. Then after, I got a private tour of the new construction at the regional school. So went in and looked at that. It's not nearly done yet. It's not due to be done until spring, but it's certainly coming along nicely. So we looked at some of the things that were put in there special, such as special ventilation, so smudges can be held inside the building. So there's lots of work being done there with some partners from reserves to the north of us as well. So it's going to be a very nice facility when it's done. So we'll kind of speak to that and try and convince them that we should be able to take a video camera in there, make at least a couple-minute video and post it so everyone can see what's happening in there. Because really it's a good news story. And the sooner we share it with people, the sooner we're not just hearing about bad news from Swan. I attended Benito multiple times for water issues. So to recap that issue, it was Friday the 13th of September, because it was a good day for a problem. When Chris attended the water plant for his daily checks, the reservoir level meter was blank, not showing the level in the reservoir, which is a problem. So he flagged that issue to me, and I came over and looked at it with him, and it was very definitely blank. So we went through the basic troubleshooting steps, rebooting the machine, checking all the stuff, and determined that the microcontroller had failed in the unit. So practically what that unit does is it checks the level of our reservoir. When we reach 10.5 feet of reservoir level, we stop making fresh water. We then wait until we drop to 9.5 feet. We begin making water, and we make water up to 10.5 feet. So we always have 1 foot of variance in the reservoir on a good day, which makes sure we have some flow in and out. We're not stagnant, we don't have anything weird happening in there, and keep it fresh. Without the machine working, nothing was triggering the make water command for the plant. So the reservoir was just simply dropping. But normally we would know the reservoir level from that machine, but it was not providing it. So the only way to get a true reservoir level was with a tape measure and the access hatch. So we did that and found out we were around 8 feet. So then we proceeded on to find a way to force the plant to make water. So we created an override procedure for the plant so we could force it to make water. But once it's turned on, it does not automatically turn itself off. So we then babysat the plant. Either Chris or myself or Chelsea attended the plant every few hours for the preceding several days to either start making water or stop making water, or start or stop, or just measure and keep going with what we were doing. So we did troubleshooting with folks in Winnipeg as well. They determined there was no fixing. New parts were shipped to us. They gave us the option of having someone come out and install them, but there's $2,000 of travel time for that. They indicated they thought it would be easy for us to put it in, so we attempted it ourselves and it went in fine. It took us a couple hours to do the programming. Part of that was the manual was on a disc. We didn't have a computer with a disc. So a little bit of trial and error there to figure the programming, but we got that all done. So we watched it still, we put it in Friday night, because Chris and I wanted to be there together and we're having some scheduling issues with his grader problem. So we went, we did pay Chris overtime for that night, but it was well worth it. Put it in, tested all the other systems, and it all passed. I was back Saturday a couple times just to babysit it to make sure that the leveling was working right, and it was. So it's been functioning on its own since Saturday and has been working fine. So that seems to be resolved. Part of the troubleshooting procedure for that, Friday the 13th, I tell you, is to turn the power off to our controls, which of course turns all the pumps off. So normally that would cause a boil water order, except we have the diesel pump. So we fired up the diesel pump manually to provide pressure to the system while we were then going to turn everything off, and found the diesel pump was not creating any pressure. So we've did some troubleshooting on that. It again was a matter of we could pay Winnipeg to come out, or we could take Chad. And so we took Chad out there and pointed him at it and said, we'll watch what you do. And he opened the pump up and found that the shear pin had been sheared. So the shear pin was replaced with the appropriate stainless steel shear pin. It was put back together. We did the new seals on the pump. It's working fine. So that is repaired as well with a couple hours of time instead of paying someone from Winnipeg to come out, which I think is important. If we can do that stuff, we save a couple $1,000 each time. Once it was fixed, then we did use it for putting the new controller in, so we could turn the power off to everything to make sure there was nothing that could zap us while we put the controller in, and we ran on the diesel pump for about an hour. It worked fine. Town didn't even know there was a change. Once the controller was in, we turned it all back on and life was good. So the water plant is, as of right now, doing good. Inspection, I think, is tomorrow. Water inspector's coming out. We don't expect any problems with it. So he's going to come and check the plant. They do that every once in a while, so I think Chris is attending for that, if I recall. Yeah. Not that it's greater works anyway, so. Well, he's been using the spare. I was at a, says road and cemetery meeting. So I had a cemetery meeting here for about a half hour with one of their members to talk about this problem of where the cemetery is. You'll see the charges there for the surveying. The cemetery is in the wrong spot. And for some people, this is an issue near and dear to their heart that it's in the wrong spot. Their concern is that if we don't correct it now, at some point someone will disc up the cemetery and plant canola over top of the graves. I don't think that would ever really happen because it's very easy to tell where the cemetery is. But there are the remains of some of our former residents buried in what is technically a canola field. And there is some canola field that is technically a cemetery. And the only way to correct this problem is to file a new survey. And the cemetery board feels strongly that the new survey must be filed. They are requesting that council take care of that for them and have it fixed. The cemetery is where it's supposed to be. We're not moving the cemetery. We're moving the survey stakes. Does anyone here wish to have input on whether or not that happens? They're very, very certain it needs to be done. But if we felt differently, we could certainly raise an objection to that.
What's gonna happen though that they put where it wasn't supposed to be?
So that it's the right size. It was always supposed to be 2 acres. It is 2 acres. It's just, it's supposed to be here, it's there.
Yeah,
So what they want to do is just take, they've done the survey already, but it will have to be filed and subdivided and all that rigmarole. They're going to give back this and use that. So the farmer won't be owed any land.
No plots are already
No
outside.
plots are, half the plots are outside where it says it is now. If you take the old survey from 1901, the cemetery is 200 feet the wrong way. So they want to just file a new subdivision saying that that is the cemetery over there and that that is canola field. But right now, this is cemetery and that's canola field. It's a lot of paper pushing. Nothing will move and
Only
nothing will
on paper
change.
though.
Only on paper.
Yeah.
No
The
graves.
cemetery is actually,
Well, there'll be new corners.
well, yeah, I know,
We'll
but I
do
mean,
it like
The corners already have pins in them
the
that were
right
measured
place.
incorrectly in 1901.
Yeah,
So what's
right.
easier, to
Do it
actually
right.
pay whatever it'll cost to do this, or to put easements both ways?
Well, I went down the easement road, and apparently easements aren't doable because it's already subdivided into pieces. So there's actually 2 pieces of property there. So half the existing property has to be given back. The part that doesn't actually have a cemetery on it needs to be given to the farmer. And the part that does have a cemetery needs to be given to the cemetery.
Yeah.
Apparently the farmer's fine with this because it doesn't change anything. It's just all on paper. But I did try good college try of saying, you know, no one's ever going to till it up. We could just leave it this way. Didn't find a lot of audience for that on the cemetery committee. They're very committed to having this changed. So much so that if we don't do it, I think they would probably start fundraising to do it. Because it is a very, very important issue to them. And I'm sure we share their.
and
view
what's
how
the
important
cost of it?
Oh, let's call it
Estimated.
$5,000 more.
huh?
Yeah, so I think maybe we should wait till we get it into our next year's budget. We don't have it in this budget, so we'll have to wait. Because it's not like he says, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no.
We've spent $1,800 on a survey that this council did exactly approve. That
Yeah,
the cemetery board asked for and had done and the bill got sent to us. So far. And the basis of that survey now, they would have to fill out all the applications to unsubdivide and re-subdivide. So the rest of it will be just processing. The survey part is done.
I think we should wait and see if we're gonna put it into our next budget.
can you just write a letter to the cemetery board saying that we will
Consider it at our
do
next
it
budget
just in
meeting.
the new budget, but we will do it.
We'll consider doing it at our next budget meeting.
So So I think we'll have Kristi write that, because she's much nicer with wording. So we'll have a letter sent to the cemetery board that says, we understand your concerns, we share your concerns, we just don't share them in this budget cycle.
Yeah.
But we may share them next budget cycle. Very good. Oh, back to the list. I was at medical recruitment. So I was there for 3 hours. So it started out as a hour pre-meeting session, then an hour with the CAO of Prairie Mountain Health to discuss some discussions. I don't know that her and I get along as well as we could, because I unfortunately sometimes say things. So we were discussing medical recruitment, and I may have said that it was sure nice that Swan River was profiled at the AMM. We were on stage, we had this beautiful video, we had all these things going on, and the medical recruitment committee happened to mostly be sitting in the front row at AMM because we like sitting in the front. And it would have really been nice with our spirit of working together with the health authority that someone had told us that was happening, because it was a complete and total surprise to our committee that we were being profiled on the provincial stage that day. And she said, oh gosh, I understand completely your view on that. And you know, the reality is we didn't know either. We only found out just a couple minutes before that we were going to do that presentation. And so we just threw it together and did it. And I said, well, I appreciate that you had concerns. So time went on. And after a while, we were again discussing recruitment, and she said, and you'll be glad to know that as we speak, there's a team in the United Kingdom promoting Swan River as a place for new doctors to come to. And I said, that's remarkable. That's great news. So right now they're over there. Yes, she said they are. Wow, I said. Let me offer my congratulations, because I chair the Chamber of Commerce, I chair Economic Development, I'm the Reeve for Swan Valley West, and I sit on the Medical Recruitment Committee. And I just want to offer my congratulations to Prairie Mountain Health that you didn't feel the need to contact any of those groups for help with what to market the Swan River Valley has. You didn't use any of our research on why doctors want to be here. You didn't use any of our research on why they leave. You didn't do any of the things that we have spent years figuring out how to make this work. You didn't take any of our materials with us. You didn't take anything. So I just, again, want to thank you and offer my congratulations that you are so much smarter than we are, that from Brandon, you were able to figure out how to do this better than we could. And while we're on the topic, further congratulations on the miracle that happened at AMM. Because as you've indicated, you only had just a couple minutes notice of that presentation. And what luck it was that a nurse practitioner from Swan River, who's not on any of the councils, happened to be attending AMM that day, after having driven 4 hours to Brandon, and happened to be sitting at AMM, ready to be part of that presentation and be profiled. Because when you had that 2 minutes notice that you needed to do a presentation, you just happened to look out into the audience and say, she happens to be here, let's do a presentation. I wish I said I had luck like you do. Meeting kind of went downhill after that. They've agreed that in the future we will be meeting quarterly to discuss recruitment efforts, and that they will take another stab at actually working together with the Medical Recruitment Committee rather than doing their own thing at the expense of the committee. After that, we held our regular meeting. We spent about an hour at it. Mr. White was a little stressed at that, but I had another commitment here. So we just powered on through it and got the meeting done in an hour, which I think may be the first time one of his meetings has ever kept to an hour. But we're working through a few things there, but there's nothing particularly remarkable to report. Coming to the G4 meeting, which I'm not sure you guys know there's a G4 meeting. It's not on the agenda yet. There's a G4 meeting. The date is October 7th. Is that a Monday? Yes. So it is Minnetonka's turn to host G4. They were to host the G4 in June. They failed to do so. No amount of poking and prodding from the other leaders has caused them to host a G4 meeting. So I believe we're next. However, the arm of Mountain got confused over who's next. So they have scheduled a G4 meeting for October 7th without notice to anybody except a couple days. They told us last week there's a G4 meeting. So there's a meeting on October 7th for G4. We need to tell somebody next week how many are coming so they make the right amount of supper. Same thing as normal, 6 p.m. supper, I believe, 7 p.m. meeting, give or take. It's in Birch River, but they don't know where yet. There's really only 2 places in Birch River we'd all fit. So my guess is at the Legion Hall, but they haven't confirmed that yet. The only other option would be it's in my school, but they're not to use the school, so probably the Legion. At that meeting, a discussion will be held regarding the additional funding for the CT scanner. So when fundraising was done, we asked the community to come up with $100,000. Health Facilities Foundation came up with $300,000. The medical recruitment folks came up with $600,000. When the dust settled, the community did more fundraising than the $100,000. So around 132,
Yeah,
about that,
yeah.
$132,000 was raised. The view of medical recruitment is that $32,000 should be returned to medical recruitment to offset the $600,000, so it's 500 and change. Because that way it is shared equally to all the councils instead of going to any one place. That's not the only view out there. So at the G4 meeting, it will be discussed as to the competing views of where that money should go, and a decision needs to be made by councils on that. The other, I think, leading competing view is that that money be used for, one, making a stroke center here, some additional equipment for that. The other one is to use it to reimburse some of the training costs for the CT technicians. However, that one's out because we used the interest from the $1 million, which was $10,000, to provide a grant to each of the 2 technicians for $5,000 for training. So that's been taken care of. So it will come back to G4 for a decision. If you're not attending G4, it would be good if you could indicate to somebody that's going before what your thoughts are on that money. If it does go to medical recruitment, this is my shameless pitch because I'm on the committee, it'll still be sitting there to be used for something else. If we need to use it for the stroke center, we still can. I don't think we want to see it paid out outside of something that all 4 are part of, partially because we have, unfortunately, one council that's having struggles with being part of medical recruitment at this time. Also on that front, and probably a discussion at G4, one council in the Swan River Valley is refusing to honor their commitment to medical recruitment this year. So 3 councils, Mountain, Swan River, and Swan Valley West, have budgeted for and intend to contribute the $16 per person to medical recruitment. The other council, Minnetonka's Bozeman, is indicated that they will not be providing funding this year. They didn't provide a favorable outlook towards next year either. They have stopped sending representatives to the meetings, which we think is probably a sign of their intention to no longer be part of medical recruitment in the valley. There is no refund process. They do not get any money back. But going forward, the question will quickly come to the other 3 councils. What are we doing if they're out? They haven't really said anything in writing. They've just said, we're not paying that. We don't have to. So it leaves a question. A similar question appears to be looming at Economic Development and with several other committees which they're part of. They seem to be separating it out into an island, at least from the groups that I'm a part of. So we'll have to work on that. Not the least of which, I guess, part of the problem is that their Reeve has indicated through a lawyer that if I wish to speak to him, I should call his lawyer. Which does make it harder to negotiate these things. Outside of medical recruitment, let's move to the greater meeting. As council instructed, the first rainy day, we would have the greater staff in to talk about private works on roads. So we hosted a meeting here actually that same day. That's where I had to be at 1 o'clock. So we had all the greater operators and public works was here. We discussed it for about an hour. That topic, which I'll probably share most of it in camera, the finer points. I will share here that universally the staff is opposed to the proposal for private works as has been presented to council. I assured them that council had not made a decision and would not be making a decision until we had their input and discussed it further here. So we'll probably do that in camera tonight. Where did we last meet? I think that brings us back to, our last meeting was the 10th, wasn't it? So I attended a library staff meeting and library interviews on September 11th. And met with the staff there. Several of the board members were there. Update on the fundraising they're doing for Halloween, so Spooktoberfest is well in hand. They've been working well on that. They've hired a new staff member at the library to replace the person that became the head librarian. So they're there and working now, I believe, already, which gives us some more of that children programming back, which would be good. And that, I believe, finally covers off, oh no, it doesn't. Almost. I went to the housing summit. So on the 19th of September, I was invited on behalf of Swan Valley West. I don't know if the rest of you are invited or not. Certainly a couple of towns, Swan River councillors showed up. They held a housing summit in Swan River to discuss what to do about the homeless population here. It was held at Westwood Inn. It was invitation only. They had rather large signs that said private event, you can't come in. So nobody came in. We did introductions. There was about 30 to 35 people in the audience. So we went around. I actually had the joy of introducing myself last. So when everybody else was done their introductions, I said, I feel a little out of place because I am the only person in this room that owns a business and is ultimately responsible for doing enough business at my business to feed my family. Everybody else in the room, save the couple town councillors that were there, Reeve of Mountain was there, a couple town councillors worked for the government, was paid full-time by the government for being there. So we proceeded on to have a great discussion. We were at it the whole day, doing some brainstorming on what to do about the homeless problem. There were certainly those in the room that are very committed to building a shelter. There were those in the room that did not want to build a shelter. There was no clear consensus even amongst the government employees on whether or not there should be a shelter. I spoke once about perhaps missing input from business owners, from apartment building owners, from landlords weren't represented at the meeting. They indicated they had not invited them on purpose, that they had chosen to limit the meeting to people that were decision makers, or politicians, or else people in departments that could make decisions, which was a little bit hard to take. They reviewed the Timberland project. They gave us all the details on how that project went, except for what they spent on it. They indicated that the reason for the Timberland project had been to obtain data from the valley to show that a homeless shelter is needed here. So there's the time of that project, and they did promise to send us those statistics so I could share them tonight, but they haven't yet arrived. I'm sorry, they're just lost in the email. 32 people were part of that project. They had 10 rooms. So they say only 2 people were arrested that were part of that project throughout the whole thing. They also indicated that some of those people found housing after, some of those people found employment after, but not all, obviously. They felt the rooms were in good shape after, that none of the rooms had been damaged in any way, and they were all fine. There was some discussion had in some of the breakout sessions, and I said, you know, a lot of people have said those rooms got damaged. A lot of people say they were trashed. If they didn't, why aren't you telling people this? Why aren't you spending more time sharing the good news? If it's such good news, why aren't you just screaming from the rooftops how good news this is? And there wasn't really an answer for that. Towards the end of the day, one thing that troubled me greatly was the person in charge of the Timberland project spoke and said that I think we all understand confidentiality is important in many things they do, especially there with the people they work with. And I had expected them to answer a question saying that, well, I'm sorry, that's confidential. But instead they chose to answer the question by saying that I can't always tell the truth about my job. And I'm not sure if that was just a poor choice of wording. I didn't have time to follow up on it at the meeting, but it was troubling because I think a better choice of wording would have been personal details are confidential, not that I can't always tell people what I'm actually doing, because I think you probably can't always tell people what you're doing. You just can't share who you're doing it for or the specifics that would identify them. So hopefully it was just a poor choice of wording on their part. At the end of the day, there's a framework kind of created that suggests that it will be a multi-pronged approach to the valley. One of those prongs will be to try to heal the divide we're seeing of them versus us in so many things, by providing more information, by trying to get people the facts on everything that's going on. There was multiple discussions about hosting a town hall where the public could attend to share their opinions. There was no commitment to do that. After the meeting, we received an email saying that they'd heard those conversations, but they weren't committing to it yet. There was some discussion about regulations for landlords and for renters, that some of the landlords in the area don't know the rules and don't follow them, but also that because of delays at the Residential Tenancy Board, many people don't want to be landlords here anymore. You know, it can be a year after someone stops paying their rent before you can legally evict them, and you're without the rent for a year. And in the meantime, they can trash the apartment and you get only the damage deposit. So one of the recommendations coming out of the committee was that the municipalities pursue the government to delegate the Residential Tenancy Board authority to one of our local authorities, so that those hearings can be held locally and immediately, rather than a 6 to 8 month wait for a hearing to be held. I doubt they'll do it, but it's certainly on the list of several of us to poke at the government and see if they would delegate that authority, because it would provide some protection to landlords. And a lot of the discussion was, we wouldn't have a lot of these problems if we had more rental properties, and we could have more rental properties if you didn't run the risk of waiting a year for an eviction hearing if something goes wrong. So I won't say that there was a silver bullet found at that meeting, but it was certainly, many things were discussed at length. It was a respectful meeting. Nobody called anybody names. Nobody got out of line. It was all nice that way. But I think it's a complex issue, and we all have to accept that there's no easy answers to such a complex issue. That is my report. Questions, comments for anybody on anything? This is your time to share and care and hug and shake hands and whatever we want to do here tonight as we talk amongst ourselves in public. Well, that's kind of boring. All right, hearing nothing there. We will be taking a recess. We'll be coming back to go in camera tonight. We're discussing some personnel matters. We are just a touch on some negotiations that will relate mostly to the grader. Some unresolved legal matters. I don't know if there's much to talk about there, but we'll leave it on just in case. We will be discussing some enforcement of acts and bylaws, both in Benito and Kenville, and there's likely to be a small amount of security of documents or property of the municipality. But nothing earth-shattering tonight in camera. We're not at this point expecting any resolutions coming out of the in-camera session, so it should be fairly short, but no promises. With that, we will stand in recess for about 10 minutes until everybody's back. Move to 9.1. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523 of the Municipal Act, Council shall be security to hold a closed meeting, continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, unresolved legal matters, investigation, enforcement of act or bylaw, and security of armed documents or property. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, and I see Councillor Burick down the way. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. We'll move to 9.4 on the agenda, resolutions arising from in-camera discussions. Does anyone have a resolution they wish to bring tonight? Moving to number 10, notice of motion. Are there any notices of motion to present to this evening? Number 11, be it resolved this meeting shall now adjourn at 9:27 p.m. Be it further resolved the next meeting is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Zbirun. Reminder to Council that that is the day after the G4 meeting, so hopefully we'll be seeing most of you there for that. I understand it won't work for everybody, and that's understandable, but if you can make it, it would be great. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried, and the meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.